isolate the Kim regime. So today, we call on all nations to cut off all ties with North Korea.
More now following President Trump's retweeting anti-Muslim videos that were originally posted by a far-right group in Britain. Here's CBS's Terry Okita.
The president posted the first video titled "Muslim Migrants Beat Up Dutch Boy on Crutches" late Tuesday. It's believed to be fake.
Whether it's a real video, the threat is real, and that is what the president is talking about.
Then Mr. Trump retweeted another video showing a Muslim smashing a statue of the Virgin Mary. The final video, which is 4 years old, shows a boy being pushed off of a roof.
On Wall Street, the Dow gained 103 to set another record, 23,940. The NASDAQ was down 87 points, and the S&P lost about 1 point today. This is CBS News.
At our home, winter nights are complicated. Either I end up freezing,
or I'm sweating.
Hi, I'm Missy Tannen.
And I'm Scott Tannen. We founded Boll & Branch to bring you the world's most comfortable sheets.
Made from 100% organic cotton.
We've created the world's first luxury flannel bedding, and they're only available for a limited time.
They're guaranteed to keep everyone the perfect temperature.
Because we sell directly to you at bollandbranch.com, you don't pay middleman markups. They're half the price and twice the quality.
Everyone who tries Boll & Branch sheets loves them, even 3 U.S. presidents.
Try our flannel sheets for 30 nights. If you're not impressed, send them back for a full refund.
Last year, they sold out in just a few weeks, so do not wait.
Go to bollandbranch.com today for $50 off your first set, plus free shipping with promo code SLEEP. That's $50 off, plus free shipping right now at bollandbranch.com. Promo code SLEEP.
Spelled B-O-L-L and branch.com. Promo code SLEEP.
It's time for tinsel and lights and sometimes fights over what we spend on the holidays.
To take the next 6 months to pay my bills. When I think about it, folks, it gives me chills. But I don't care, 'cause Christmas comes but once a year.
But, says WWL's Chris Miller,
6 out of 10 people surveyed by Affirm, a consumer financing company, said holiday spending often leads to arguments with their spouse or other members of the family. 3 out of 10 worry about how they're going to pay it all off. The best way to avoid the fights and panic? Make a plan, says Paul Morgan, certified financial planner with Raymond James & Associates.
Couples that have a plan in place would be planning well before Christmas.
And none of this waiting until November stuff either. Morgan says January is the best time to start planning. Chris Miller for CBS News, New Orleans.
And I'm Dave Barrett, CBS News.
Hiring is important, but finding the right people can be a real challenge.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. 3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
An armed robbery in downtown Chattanooga left a couple without their phones. It happened at 154 right in front of the Five Guys on 4th and Broad downtown. The couple said they were standing in front of the restaurant when a man approached them with a gun and demanded their valuable items. They handed them over, but the gentleman who was robbed wasn't having anything of it. He gave chase after the suspect took their items and managed to get 2 of their phones back. Then he called 911. The police arrested Mr. Raymond Deontay Hunter, and the 2 victims positively ID'd him as the man who robbed them. In Bradley County, the sheriff's office says a man who had warrants for his arrest out of Georgia burst into a home in Bradley County, took a hostage, and a SWAT standoff ensued. After several hours, a SWAT team made entry and took Mr. Mark Clayton Kane into custody, a woman also taken into custody. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7. Now.
Expect a few more clouds to roll in through your nighttime. Not as chilly overnight, lows mid and upper 40s. Now for your Thursday, clouds will thicken. A few afternoon showers will move in from the west, highs into the lower 60s, with more sunshine returning for Friday and dry and pleasant weather through the weekend. Experience the wonder of Ruby Falls Christmas Underground on a magical journey to visit Santa. Discover Christmas cheer on this heartwarming adventure. For tickets and details, go to rubyfalls.com. And I'm Soar Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7. Sean Hannity, 25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. CBS Radio News. NASCAR, Bloomberg Markets, David Tulis, streaming strong at Noogaradio.com. Live on YouTube and Facebook. Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7. Chattanooga Radio.
Sports Talk with Sam Jordan here on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM, 95.3 FM HD4. Good evening to you. How are you tonight? We are on YouTube only tonight. Don't know why we're having the issues with Facebook, but we'll try to get that accomplished here in just a little bit. There's been a lot of news going on throughout the day. Today, coaching carousel continues. I think it's almost like NASCAR silly season. And joining me on the phone tonight from Altoona, Pennsylvania, I've got Corey Geiger. Now, we have never met before in person. We're both from Arkansas. He's from Bryant. I'm from Conway originally. But I've known of Corey reading his stories in the Altoona Mirror and other sources. He's also on the radio up there. Sometimes you would see him on Channel 10 on WTAJ TV. And I mean, this guy's everywhere. He's Mr. Sports in Pennsylvania. I have to give you that accolade there, Corey. Corey Geiger joining us from Altoona. And the reason why I brought Corey on tonight is Joe Moorhead, who was the offensive coordinator at Penn State. Just accepted a job this afternoon to be the new head football coach at Mississippi State. And for all the fans out there, because we do talk quite a bit about the SEC, Corey, tell us a little bit about Joe Moorhead. I mean, he used to be a head coach at Fordham, and he's been an assistant at other schools. He's been around the block for a number of years, and a very outstanding courteous individual of my knowledge of him from being around the campus there and at media days and stuff going on at Penn State. But tell the fans out there a little bit about Joe Moorhead and what this job means to him, if you know.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. And, look, Joe Moorhead was the head coach at Fordham 2 years ago. That's an FCS team. And now he's at Mississippi State. You want to talk about an incredible sequence of events for a guy to go from Fordham to 2 years at Penn State to Mississippi State. What it says, Sam, is what a tremendous job he did at Penn State. He was able to come here and in a very short period of time turn what basically had been kind of a caveman offensive football program into a juggernaut offensive football program. I mean, Joe Moorhead in the 2 seasons, Penn State's averaged close to 40 points per game. And that's a Penn State football program that for most of everyone's life was a 3 yards and a cloud of dust kind of program. Right. So, look, the guy came in, did sensational work, helped Penn State win a Big Ten title, and go 10-2 this year as well. So, look, I when I think of Joe Moorhead, I think of him as the one person who is singularly most responsible. If I had to pick one person for Penn State's success the past 2 years, it wouldn't be James Franklin. It would be Joe Moorhead. Now, that's not taking anything away from James Franklin, who has done a sensational job, but that offense that Joe Moorhead installed is the reason Penn State has been able to ratchet it up and become nationally prominent again.
The one thing I know about Joe, when he was the head coach at Fordham, you know, being in the Patriot League is not an easy task. I mean, I used to work a number of years at Bucknell University with their sports network, the Bison Sports Network. And, you know, the Patriot League is not an easy league. Even though it's FCS, it is very competitive. And Fordham wasn't always the one of the best teams in the Patriot League, to say the least. I mean, very tough competition. But when Joe went to Fordham to take over that program, he instantly brought them out of the gutter or the bottom of the stockpile and brought that program up rather quickly. Now, the one thing I know about Joe Moorhead personally, you know, Penn State offense used to be like 110th out of all the FBS schools. And here in the last 2 years, we're like in the top 30, top 40 offensively. So, I mean, that's how much of an impact Joe Moorhead has brought to the Penn State, offense and everything. And I think the way that the history is developed, I mean, as far as with Mississippi State, because, you know, they've had Dak Prescott, you know, they haven't really kind of settled in the dust per se, even though they had, you know, shake up down there with Hugh Freeze, you know, going away, and they had, you know, an interim coach, and that's at Ole Miss. I'm sorry, I'm getting the two mixed up, but Dan Mullen, you know, has kept that program up in a pretty good regard for being a Mississippi school. And I think with Joe Moorhead, he's really going to take that to another level in itself. And I mean, we will probably see Mississippi State being in the upper echelon here very soon.
Well, I think they'll be able to do some things offensively. He's going into a tough spot because they're in the SEC West. Somebody tweeted at me a little bit earlier that in a 7-week span next year, Mississippi State will play Florida, Alabama, Auburn, LSU, and Texas A&M. That's in a 7-week span. So Joe Moorhead's going to have his work cut out for. That's an extremely difficult league. Division he plays in the SEC West. But here's the thing: he knows what he wants to do offensively. He's committed to it. The improvement that Penn State made under his tutelage for the 2 years was certainly evident. They're 7th in the country in scoring this year. So I think he'll go down there. He'll have success with offense. Now, whether or not Joe Moorhead has overall success in Mississippi State will depend on recruiting, will depend on defense. You know, these are some things that he's going to have to do to succeed in that type of juggernaut division. But in terms of offense, I'd be stunned if Joe Moorhead's not able to get the type of offensive players that he wants there to run his system and be effective.
Now, is Joe going to stay on at Penn State through the bowl game?
He is not. The word is out this afternoon. Mississippi State's athletic director said that Joe will not be here for the bowl game. My guess is Ricky Ronnie will probably call the plays for Penn State. He's the tight ends coach. And if James Franklin decides to stay internal with the hire, Ricky Ronnie would seem to have the best chance for the job of anyone already on the staff. I don't think James Franklin's going to do that. I think James Franklin's going to go out and make an external hire, because this is now, Sam, the Penn State offensive coordinator job now is a sensational job. When you have a guy go from Fordham to your coordinator spot for 2 years to Mississippi State, that opens up the eyes for every great offensive mind in this country that might not necessarily be in the best spot for them. And so James Franklin's going to have a whole bunch of interest for that job, and it's going to be up to him to find the right guy and somebody who is as good, if maybe not better, than Joe Moorhead. But here's the key. How many offensive minds in the country are better than Joe Moorhead? I think it's a pretty small percentage. I think it's probably less than 10%. So James Franklin faces a very difficult challenge of going out and finding a guy that can sustain what Moorhead has been able to do. And in a lot of ways, that will determine James Franklin's tenure from here going forward at Penn State.
Now, the one question I've been asked numerous times since I moved down here in September is, how did Vanderbilt let James Franklin go to Penn State and put the success mark on like he has in the short time that he's been there at University Park?
Well, they couldn't compete with the kind of money that he was going to get at Penn State. I mean, James Franklin did a very nice job at Vanderbilt and helped make them relevant once again after basically being irrelevant for a long time. But, hey, look, I'm not trying to offend any Vanderbilt football fans, but that's a stepping stone kind of job.
Right.
And I think anybody that knows college football would understand that. Penn State is a destination kind of job.
Right.
James Franklin came here for $4.5 million a year. Now he's making $6 million a year, and he's got a chance to play for the college football playoff, you know, for the next handful of years, at least for a shot at it. So, hey, I give Franklin a lot of credit for what he did at Vanderbilt, but unfortunately, at that level of college football, places like Vanderbilt, for them to keep, I would look at TCU. TCU is one of the few places that's been able to keep their head coach, you know, who turned them into a nationally prominent program, and that's Gary Patterson.
Yeah.
Just other places, even Chris Peterson at Boise State, he ended up leaving. to go to Washington. It's hard to keep those guys once they reach a certain level.
Now, let me ask you this question. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. You know, you've been apprised of the coaching carousel that's been going on throughout college football ever since the last couple of weeks, and especially since the weekend when the regular season ended. But from an outside perspective, you're 5 states away from us. What is your thoughts about the debacle that is going on with Tennessee trying to find a coach?
Yeah, it's really a shame. I didn't like the hire of Greg Schiano based on football reasons. I just don't think Greg Schiano, from my perspective, what I know about his career, he wasn't a good fit as a football coach.
Right.
Greg Schiano rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Go read about Greg Schiano. You'll find volumes and volumes of stories about him just ticking off everybody. His own players at Tampa Bay didn't like him at all.
Right.
He infuriates the opponents. You know, he had success at Rutgers, and that's hard to do. So I give Greg Schiano a lot of credit for the success at Rutgers. But from what I know about Tennessee, that's a proud football program. I want to see Tennessee succeed. College football is better when Tennessee programs like that are succeeding. They needed a guy down there that could come in and get along with everybody. They needed a salesman. They needed a James Franklin kind of guy that could win over support and could go to rooms and light up the room and talk to everybody and be friendly. They didn't need some gruff guy going in, it's my way or the highway. Again, these are all just football matters. Just from a football coaching perspective, I thought it was a terrible decision. I don't know what in the world they were thinking, you know, trying to get that square peg into a round hole from a football perspective.
Have you ever seen in all your years of covering sports where social media really, you know, a huge backlash, the politicians even got involved? Have you ever seen that? I haven't in my 37 years.
And that's the different story. Again, I said all of that from a I thought it was just a bad decision from a football perspective. Then you add the Penn State connection and the alleged Sandusky connection. There was no way that was going to happen once that got out there. And yeah, I've never seen from sports, you know, the social media mob make a change like that. But again, what I truly wonder, and I've talked about this on my radio show up here, are Tennessee fans, were they truly upset, one, because they just didn't like the football coaching choice, two, because of the Penn State thing, or three, both? A lot of folks here in Pennsylvania seem to think that Tennessee fans are using the Penn State thing as a smokescreen because they just didn't like Schiano as a football coach and they wanted somebody else. And so I can't speak for everybody. I'm sure there are a lot of people in Tennessee that truly are outraged about the possibility of any connection to Sandusky with Schiano. But I would also think that there are a lot of folks who just didn't like him as a football coach, and they were going to use whatever means necessary to get rid of him.
Yeah. I mean, down here, most everybody was, you know, from media reports and stuff and seeing stories on TV, it was more because they wanted to keep a good impression nationally, you know, of being ethical and moral, and they just didn't want any association with anything like that.
It's just hard to fully buy that. If they'd hired Nick Saban or some or Urban Meyer and one of those coaches with that kind of background just happened to have a connection, do you really think that Tennessee fans would have continued the backlash if they would have gotten the exact coach that they wanted?
They might, but like I said, I mean, the overall input that you hear from the public, though, down here is mostly because they wanted to keep that impeccable reputation, you know, at the top of the heap there, more than anything. I mean, Schiano, I don't think is that great of a coach. You know, sometimes I wonder if Ohio State's not going to catch backlash since this is all came out, you know, being a part of the Penn State coaching staff when this was all going down with Sandusky. But, you know, whether Urban Meyer may be forced to find a different defensive coordinator or anything like that.
Well, here's the perspective I can give you from the outside, and I've read enough to know what the perspective is around the country. There are a lot of folks who think that Tennessee fans are using the Penn State thing as an excuse. Now, if that offends your fans there, That's not me saying that. That's Fox saying that. And so I would tend to think, like I said, I'm sure there are a lot of people that absolutely wanted no part of any SEC at all. But perception is reality, and there's a lot of people around the country that think that Tennessee was using good like shit.
We're on the phone with Corey Geiger. He's a sports writer with the Altoona Mirror and done an outstanding job through the years. He's originally an Arkansas boy from Bryant, Arkansas, about 45. Well, I must have lost him. Hopefully he'll give me a call back here. He has been an outstanding sports writer. He was a writer in Arkansas before moving up to Pennsylvania, and I've known of him as a colleague through the years and has covered Penn State sports amongst other sports, that's there in PA, and has done a lot writing for AP as well. So we've been chatting with him about Tennessee, and let's see if we have Corey back on the phone. He must be traveling along Route 22.
He almost nailed it. I'm heading up to St. Francis University for a college basketball game. It's up in the mountains of Pennsylvania. Most of your listeners have probably never heard of it, but
Loretto.
Cell phone signal starts to get a little spotty.
Yeah, especially when you get around Evansburg. I know that drive. Anyway, we're talking with Corey Geiger. Corey, let's switch gears here a little bit. Arkansas, Brent Bielema, got let go, didn't live up to the standards that Arkansas, has looked for, probably not ever since, Frank Broyles was the coach down there. But that's another high-profile program here in the SEC that, has got rabid fans and boosters and are willing to throw money out there. Do you see that possibly being a drug-out process as well, and maybe with some of the other schools? Because there's quite a few schools that are looking for new coaches.
It's just going to be so hard at Arkansas. Brett Bielema had success at Wisconsin, and Brett Bielema is a tough, hard-nosed football coach. He wants to play physical football and be able to run the ball. But I covered the Wisconsin team he had with Russell Wilson and Monte Ball, which was a sensational offensive team. I thought Brett Bielema would have some success at Arkansas. But here's the thing, though, man. It is so difficult to have success in that division year after year. When you're going up against Auburn, Alabama, LSU, A&M, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, week after week after week. I mean, it's a juggernaut type of division, and I thought Bielema would have success. He certainly had a little bit of success here and there, but they never could get their defense worked out. They couldn't stop people in big games at all, and so Arkansas should be able to get a pretty decent coach. They won't get an elite level coach. They can't pay that just yet either. But no matter who they get, I mean, again, you're in a division with 5 or 6 top 20, top 25 teams every year. And, you have to be realistic with expectations. For Arkansas to be good every 3 or 4 years is probably about the max expectation there.
Right. Now, just got word late this afternoon, Purdue's Jeff Brom turned down an offer to become the coach at Tennessee. That just coming down the last couple hours. Purdue, I mean, they're kind of a mediocre team there in the Big Ten, but do you see any changes coming out of one of the Power 5 conferences, like the Big Ten, to move on and try to better themselves?
I can't believe that. I saw that. I can't believe that. Purdue's going nowhere. And look, I happen to think that Tennessee has a lot going for it. That to me is an incredible indictment on Tennessee that he would not go there, because in the SEC East, if we're not talking about the West, you're in the East. Yeah, you got Georgia and Florida, and they're going to be good, but Tennessee should be good most years too. And I cannot believe, I know he's only been there for a year, but for a coach to turn down Tennessee, and I'm guessing $4 or $5 million a year, if not more.
$6 million.
They were talking. Purdue. is to stay at Purdue.
West Lafayette doesn't have a whole lot to offer compared to Knoxville.
I don't want any part of that Tennessee fiasco.
Yeah. What I was saying, West Lafayette does not have anything close to what Knoxville has to offer in a lot of different areas. But, I mean, it just seems like there would be more prestige by having a job with an SEC team like Tennessee. I mean, Purdue is not chopped liver, but they haven't been at the top of the heap either in the Big Ten.
Purdue's going nowhere.
Right.
Tennessee is in position, you would think, within 2 or 3 years, if you get the right people in recruiting, to be right back in the thick of things, if not quicker. Purdue's going nowhere in the Big Ten. So I just think that's what I'm saying. They've messed that up at Tennessee so badly. I just want no part of any of it.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. You've been around Brady Hoke, former coach at Michigan. He's the interim coach right now for the football team here at Tennessee. Why do you not think that Tennessee doesn't just go ahead and offer the job to him? Yeah, even though they lost to LSU and they lost to Vanderbilt, the 2 games that Hoke filled in for, Hoke has got a pretty good resume behind him. Why not offer the job to him?
Yeah, I'm not high on Brady Hoke. I'm just not. He took over. He got off to a good start at Michigan, and there were a lot of high hopes. But he really underachieved his at the end of his tenure at Michigan, and they couldn't wait to get rid of him. Now they had Harbaugh in mind in waiting.
Right.
I would think, Sam, if Tennessee has to go with Brady Hoke, then they have flat out failed miserably and humiliatingly from a public standpoint, that they will have been turned down by 8, 10, 15 people. Because if you're going to go throw $7-8 million at Mike Gundy, and you're going after Dave Doran and all these folks, that says, first of all, that you don't think Brady Hoke is the right guy. And if they end up having to settle, which is exactly what I think it would be, if they end up having to settle for Brady Hoke,
right,
then their coaching search will have reached just an epidemic fiasco proportion.
The one thing I've noticed, though, with a lot of the schools that have openings, they are not going to a headhunter agency. They're trying to do it all in-house. Do you think that trying to cost save as much as they can to be able to offer more money to a potential head coach is the way things are going nowadays?
Yeah. Sure, that is true, but you better be careful if you're not going to go through that's one thing these agencies do, is they vet these people thoroughly. And whether or not Schiano was fully vetted about the Mike McQueary testimony, who knows? That seemed to catch Tennessee off guard. But if you're going to do it on your own, then you had better be able to think of anything and everything that could possibly come up that you ask that candidate. Because, and most people are, your AD there, John Curry, and I'm sure he does a good job in some things, but was he in position to ask Schiano every single possible thing that could have ever come up? Who knows?
Right.
So that's what these search agencies are there for, is to help you out and to help you vet through that process.
Corey Geiger, acclaimed and accomplished writer for the Altoona Mirror, covers college football, sports, especially with Penn State and the Big Ten. Thank you for joining us, my friend, and hopefully we can talk to you again in the future.
I do want to tell you, since you're from Conway, Arkansas, my cousin is actually Peyton Hillis, who is from Conway, Arkansas, played for the Razorbacks and in the NFL. So you never know. Life is, the world is small. You never know who you're going to meet and run into where you've got connections like that.
That's true. We'll be back after the break here on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader. Nooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news Now,
an armed robbery in downtown Chattanooga left a couple without their phones. It happened at 154 right in front of the Five Guys on 4th and Broad downtown. The couple said they were standing in front of the restaurant when a man approached them with a gun and demanded their valuable items. They handed them over, but the gentleman who was robbed wasn't having anything of it. He gave chase after the suspect took their items and managed to get 2 of their phones back. Then he called 911. The police arrested Mr. Raymond Deontay Hunter, and the 2 victims positively ID'd him as the man who robbed them. In Bradley County, the sheriff's office says a man who had warrants for his arrests out of Georgia burst into a home in Bradley County, took a hostage, and a SWAT standoff ensued. After several hours, a SWAT team made entry and took Mr. Mark Clayton Kane into custody, a woman also taken into custody. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7. Now.
Expect a few more clouds to roll in through your nighttime. Not as chilly overnight, lows mid and upper 40s. Now for your Thursday, clouds will thicken. A few afternoon showers are moving from the west, highs into the lower 60s, with more sunshine returning for Friday and dry and pleasant weather through the weekend. Experience the wonder of Ruby Falls Christmas Underground on a magical journey to visit Santa. Discover Christmas cheer on this heartwarming adventure. For tickets and details, go to rubyfalls.com. And I'm Sorgene 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
Hi, this is Sonia with the Mountain Oaks Weddings, Events, and Tea Room in Ottawa, located in the former James County Courthouse. Go back in style when you're planning your next event. Mountain Oaks is a full-service wedding venue and catering facility. No fuss, no mess, no cleanup when you schedule your next special event with Mountain Oaks. Leave the planning and the work to the experts, but take all the credit for your wonderful event. Call me, Sonia, at Mountain Oaks today at 423-238-9333 and leave the work to us.
423-238-9333 or stop by our location on Church Street in Ottawa.
Pulse Centers of Chattanooga offers non-medical solutions to your body's problems using a state-of-the-art technology called pulsed electromagnetic fields, PEMF for short. We help fuel the body's natural healing response. If you're tired of taking harmful, addictive drugs that only dull your pain and cause awful side effects, the knowledgeable, friendly staff at Pulse Centers can help you end that cycle.
Call to schedule a free whole body assessment at 423-771-7755. That's 423-771-7755. An automated nuclear missile defense system has suddenly entered into launch mode, and you are the only one who can stop it. Escape Experience Chattanooga. Your team has just been infected with a deadly virus. Your only hope? There, in an abandoned farmhouse. Escape Experience Chattanooga. Handcuffed in a maximum security prison, you have an hour to flee. Escape Experience Chattanooga. These escape scenarios and more at Chattanooga's best escape room, game, and team building platform. Call now. Slots are limited. Register online at escapeexperience.com/Chattanooga. Escape Experience Chattanooga.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader. Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
Sports Talk with Sam Jordan here on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM, 95.3 FM HD4. It was a pleasure to have my good friend Corey Geiger on talking about coaching situation in college football. As I mentioned earlier, Athletic Director John Curry still looking for that high-profile name to take the head football coaching job there in Knoxville. This is after Mike Gundy turned the balls down for his second time in 5 years yesterday. And reportedly, Curry offered a 6-year, $42 million deal to Gundy. And that would have made Gundy the third highest paid head coach in college football. Gundy's currently the head coach at Oklahoma State. Peyton Manning made a pitch to him personally to come and take the job. But Gundy, 13 years at Oklahoma State there in Stillwater, just didn't want to leave. That was his alma mater anyway. And I didn't really see that one happening, even though after the fact, I'm saying that. But who I think, they keep going after all these other names out there. Why don't they just go homegrown, go with T. Martin, former UT quarterback, he quarterbacked the 98 national championship team. The only thing that's against T. Martin that I've learned is Peyton Manning has a beef with Martin. And it's like, you know what? Let's put the personal feelings aside. Let's look out for the overall good of the program. That's what we ought to be focusing on. And go homegrown. If it doesn't work out after 3 years or so, I think you really need to give a coach at least 3 years, no matter if it's high school, college, or Pee-wee program, to kind of make their mark. You know, they're inheriting a former coach's players. What, you know, it's going to take time to get in your own crop of players. I'm not saying that they're planting seeds out there. The players are planting those seeds, and it's just a matter of the schools cultivating and getting the end product and making their teams better. But today, like I said, when I was talking with Corey, Jeff Brome, the Purdue head coach, turned down an offer to come down here supposedly for around $6 million a year. Right now, they're looking at North Carolina State's Dave Doran next on the wish list. You know, they've already had Oklahoma State's Mike Gundy, as I said, that turned down the job. Duke's David Cutcliffe turned him down in the last week. SMU's Chad Morris is on the list. Auburn defensive coordinator Kevin Steele was on the list. You know, it's like, let's get things moving along here before we lose any potential quality candidate, you know, and with the reputation right now that's out there nationally, I mean, we're kind of like the laughing stock of college football. That's a personal commentary there. You know, and Corey kind of alluded to that a little bit, not necessarily in those words, but I'm just saying, you know, people are feeling bad because Tennessee, you know, is, you know, been the butt of jokes lately because we can't find a coach willing to come to Tennessee, and especially after what happened with Greg Schiano, you know. And, you know, like the question I asked Corey, you know, people up at Penn State or in the Northeast, you know, from that region perspective, it's not that far away. You know, what's the thoughts on the Greg Schiano bit? You know, people are thinking they're using that as an excuse down here because Schiano is just a bad coach. Don't know. And I guess we'll never find out exactly whether or not, you know, how good Schiano is. I mean, yeah, he had a good tenure at Rutgers, turned that program around in the short time that he was there. Tampa Bay wasn't so great. But here's another thing that I came across in doing some of my research for tonight's show. You know, Tennessee, you know, we've talked about their recruiting class of 2018 that would be coming in. There was a little over 20 players that had committed to Tennessee, and now they're down to about 15, 16 players. Well, I'm not kind of feeling so bad that Tennessee has lost some of those players. They still got an opportunity to get those recommitted if they can get a coach that's going to be top quality caliber to turn this program around. But Michigan, the Wolverines, they lost 2 players on its roster to graduate transfers. Quarterback Wilton Spite, quarterback Alex Malzone, and wide receiver Drake Harris were granted releases from the Wolverines. Harris was already granted one, or rather Spite was granted one earlier in the week, and these other 2 just came today. The only quarterback that's on the roster for next year is redshirt freshman Brandon Peters, the oldest quarterback on the roster, and he's a freshman. Now, they've got a potential to lose one other player off that roster, offensive lineman Jermaine Hall. He's been contemplating leaving the program, but hasn't made a decision yet. The one thing that I noticed in the release on Malzone and Harris, they both thanked, you know, Coach Harbaugh, you know, for working with them and so forth. And even with Malzone, you know, gave credit to Coach Hoke, you know, for bringing him into the program. But it's like, you got to be wondering if you've lost 3 players, 2 at a prime position, such as quarterback, and another one at wide receiver, and you got one of your top offensive linemen that's wanting to leave but hasn't made that choice to break away from the program yet. Something's wrong, you know. And now Harbaugh has been mentioned to possibly be looking at coming back into the NFL. He's just not feeling the love, I guess, in Ann Arbor. Don't know. But, this silly season in college football coaching circles just keeps getting wackier and wackier. While we're talking college sports, Covenant College's volleyball team has been voted the USA South Team Sportsmanship Award winner in that sport. It's the third year in a row for the award at the school. The program finished 25-8 and earned itself the USA Southwest Division regular season and conference tournament crowns. And switching over to the women's basketball team for Covenant, they fell to Birmingham Southern 73-69 in Birmingham Tuesday night. Covenant drops to 1-3 on the season. They'll open their USA South action on Friday against Berea. Tip-off is set for 5:30 p.m. UTC Mocs, they lost to Akron 75-70 Tuesday night at Akron. Ronnie Chapman had 19 points. Chapman, along with Nat Dixon and Joshua Phillips, combined, all three of them, for 48 of the 70 points in that loss to the Zips of Akron. They'll be back in action on Saturday night, with UT Martin in a doubleheader. The women's will tip off at 5 o'clock, and the men probably right around 7:30 there at McKenzie Arena. So if you get an opportunity, go out and catch some great basketball action. Okay, high school basketball action from last night. East Ridge defeated Chattanooga Central 51-49. It came down to winning shot right at the buzzer for East Ridge to get that. Tyner defeated Hickson 80-44. Tyner is 1-0 in the season. Hickson drops to 0-5 overall, 0-1 in the region. Girls side, Tyner defeated Hickson 62-19, so they got the daily double on that one. Tyner is now 4-1 overall. Girls play 1-0 in the region. Another boys score, Hamilton Heights blew out Lincoln Academy 100-70, I believe. I forgot the score. I think it's 100-70. Hamilton Heights now 6-1. Their only loss of the year was to Lincoln Academy earlier in the season. So they won 6 of their 7 games that they played here, with the only loss coming to Lincoln Academy. So interesting there. There are a lot of basketball games that will be getting underway here beginning Friday, and we'll be talking about that probably tomorrow's show and definitely on Friday as well, and several games on Saturday. All right, getting back to some of the football talk that we've been discussing here tonight. We mentioned Joe Moorhead, the offensive coordinator at Penn State University, took the head coaching job earlier this afternoon at Mississippi State. And according to Corey, and I guess confirmed by Mississippi State athletic officials, he will take over that program immediately and will not be on the sidelines for Penn State's potential bowl game, wherever that may be at. It won't be at the Rose Bowl like everybody was thinking, but it'll be at some sunny bowl, either in Florida or in the West Coast. So Joe Moorhead, a very quality individual. I know him from my coverage of sports up at Penn State over the last couple years, and he's a very genuine individual. Chip Kelly's deal as the new coach at UCLA has been released. It's a 5-year, $23.3 million contract with a $9 million reciprocal buyout. Kelly is still owed $15 million from the San Francisco 49ers when he coached them for the 1 year. Salary with UCLA will offset the 49ers payments to Kelly, with San Francisco still owing a little more than $8 million to Kelly. That will be paid over the next several years as well. We mentioned, with Tennessee still in the hunt for their next coach. There's several other programs. We mentioned Arkansas, but Arizona State is looking at hiring Herm Edwards, who's been out of coaching since 2008, 2009, and he hasn't been a college coach since 89. But things are looking like that's going to be finalized within a day or so. Arkansas, they're still looking for their next head coach, since Brett Bielema was told once he walked off the field from last Friday night's game after losing to Missouri 48-45 that he's no longer needed. Paul Rhodes, their offensive coordinator, is the interim head coach now. Florida, they filled their vacancy after Dan Mullen accepted the job. Mullen used to be the offensive coordinator at Florida during their winning heydays and was formerly at Mississippi State. Georgia Southern, Kent State, Nebraska, Oregon State, Rice, South Alabama, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Texas El Paso are major schools around the country that are still looking for their next head coach. Ole Miss rewarded their interim coach, Matt Luke, after taking over for Hugh Freeze, who was abruptly resigned or got fired, however you want to look at it. 40 days before the season started, and Matt Luke took over, and he got him to a 6-6 record, which, for all the controversy that was going on, did a pretty decent job, especially being in the SEC West. That's not shabby work there. But, Matt Luke, we'll see if Ole Miss will give him the latitude there to, make his needed changes and tweaks and stuff to that. And Chip Kelly out at UCLA, Joe Moorhead, as we said, at Mississippi State. So, out of that, there's a few prestigious jobs out there. John Gruden, we had to figure, was toying with the idea of Tennessee, and I think he toyed just enough to kind of whet the appetite for a lot of Tennessee fans out there. Just, wasn't the numbers that he was looking for, especially when he's making a huge salary now at ESPN. And speaking of ESPN, today they let go another 150 staffers, mostly on the production and technical side. And what I found amazing was reading that story from ESPN when they made that release. They still employ approximately 8,000 people. Now, that's quite a big number. To kind of give you a comparison, it's just slightly larger than the employment numbers at Amazon here in Chattanooga. They employ a little over 5,000 people in that huge complex over there, just filling orders. They say that you have 9 seconds to fill an order at Amazon over here in Chattanooga. 9 seconds. I saw yesterday as well that it was a record day for Amazon of doing 740 single sales in a second. 740 sale items in 1 second. So you know that they're moving quite a bit of product around. So just, take that equation. ESPN having a little over 8,000 people in its employ. And I can proudly say that I've worked for ESPN doing games for them, on ESPN radio back in 09 and 10. They pay well. And, finally Disney is saying, well, we need to pull this dragon back in just a little bit, and the scuttlebutt is ESPN wants to renegotiate their Monday Night Football contract because they're paying $2 billion a year. Now, I've owned radio and TV stations in my lifetime, and it's like, there's a lot of mouths to feed. And when you're paying out $2 billion for rights fees to have Monday Night Football, that's an awful lot of advertising to sell, an awful lot. And, NBC's got Super Bowl 52 coming up in February. And it's like, that's where they're going to make their bread and butter, for the season, or at least they should. The ratings are still dropping. The attendance hasn't improved. I mean, it's improved some, but not like what they're looking for. And they thought after Veterans Day protest on social media, not watching NFL football or attending the games at the stadiums, it has not really affected the teams. They have not lowered their ticket prices. I know when I was back home for Thanksgiving, I was just curious to see how much a ticket was for a Steelers game. The last couple of years, they're $80 a ticket. This year, they're still $80 a ticket, and depending on premium games that they would be playing, they're $100 or $110 a piece for a cheap seat. There's not a bad seat at Heinz Field, by the way, but I'm just saying, even up in the nosebleeds, it's $100 or $110 depending on the team that the Steelers would be playing. Yeah, I don't know what the ticket prices are up at Nashville for the Titans. I didn't get to ask my son, who's a season ticket holder for the Titans, as well as the Preds. But I'm sure that it is not too far off the pace than what the Steelers charge their fans. I know up in Buffalo at Rich Stadium, their prices are very similar to the Steelers. Cleveland, I think, is pretty much on par. And never went to a Browns game. But, there's usually a lot of tickets available to see a Browns game for obvious reason. But it hasn't really affected, the NFL owners haven't been crying that, they're poor. That's why they keep making the money that they do with all the sponsorships and the advertising that they have. They sell programs. They've got all kinds of signage around their stadiums and stuff. And, that other than the ticket prices help offset paying the salaries of all these players and the office personnel and the groundskeepers and the video coordinators and so forth. I mean, it's a business. Just like with college sports, it's truly a business. And even high school sports have to consider it as a business as well. When I was an athletic administrator for a public school system in Central PA back in the mid-90s, my budget was almost $500,000. And I had to find ways, creative ways at that, of offsetting that budget of $500,000. Yeah, the school district, we're putting so much money into it, but I had to come up with at least a third of my budget from sponsorships, soda deals with Pepsi or Coke or RC, and having signage around the stadiums and stuff. And it's truly a business. We're out there competing against the radio stations, the TV stations, the newspapers, even the Booster Club, because the Booster Club's trying to raise money so that they can help, with their program. The football team or basketball team or whatever. Everybody's out there selling something. So, these schools, they got boosters that are kicking in money to their foundations. So when there's a coach that needs to have a buyout, that usually comes from the Vols Foundation or the Razorback Foundation or whatever foundation it is, or Booster Club, whatever you want to call it. Like at Penn State's the Nittany Lion Club. And I'm telling you what, there's some major dollars in the Nittany Lion Club, major dollars. And that's why Penn State is able to have good quality coaches like it does. Even after Joe Paterno passed away, Bill Belichick was the coach up there for a couple years before taking the job at Houston. Prior to him coming in at Penn State, he was the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. So, he's got an impressive resume. James Franklin, turned Vanderbilt around for the time that he was down here. He got rewarded with a move up to the big time, with coaching Penn State and Lion football. So, it is a business, pure and simple. It's just like here with the radio station. It's a business. We live on selling advertising to clients. That's why we assimilate top quality programs like Sean Hannity, having Nooganomics with David Tulis every weekday from 9 to 11. Bloomberg News is on with us from 1 to 3. We got Keon Rose You got myself with Sports Talk here, and Keon with The Clutch, who will be here at 7 o'clock, right after CBS World National News, which is not that far away. So, having those top quality programs, we can sustain ourselves with having quality advertisers being on the radio station. So, it's a business. No matter what, with high school, college, pro, you name it, or even pee-wee football at that, or with the youth soccer leagues, even with the Chattanooga sports leagues that we were talking about earlier today in our sports updates throughout the day. They're looking for people to sign up here in the next 30 days, and they'll start, league play in the 3 different divisions here in January. So, they've got to have sponsorships for that besides paying player fees. So if you'd like to find out more about the CSL, listen into our sports updates and you can get all that information there. Coming up, we've got Keon Rose with The Clutch, and he will have his rants and tirades talking about sports. I'm just kidding. He doesn't rant or go into a tirade. He brings you a lot of great information on sports, more on the national side, but also with the SEC as well. And until tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, we'll be back with you with some more Sports Talk with Sam Jordan. Once again, our thanks to Corey Geiger from the Altoona Mirror talking about Joe Moorhead being named the new Mississippi State coach, talking about Tennessee football and the SEC and a whole lot more. Thanks again, Corey. Till tomorrow, talk to you soon. Have a great evening. Keon is up next.
95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga.